We now go to Bill number 3.
Animals Penalty Notices Bill, second reading.
Sing now. Andrew Rosindell.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I beg to move that the Animals Penalty Notices Bill be read for a second time. Madam Deputy Speaker, as Chairman of the All-Party Group for Zoos and Aquariums and a former Shadow Minister for Animal Welfare and a committed advocate for the care and protection of animals, I am proud to be given the opportunity to sponsor this bill today. I want to firstly thank all MPs who have co-sponsored my bill. But there is one MP I want to thank in particular, and that is the greatest advocate for animal welfare I believe this House has ever seen. The man who should have been with Vivian yesterday as she strutted her stuff around the Victoria Gardens and was crowned winner of the 2021 Westminster Dog of the Year contest. My friend and our dearly missed colleague, Sir David Amos. Had he not been taken from us, he would most certainly have been here today supporting the bill that I now lay before this House. As a nation of animal lovers, we must not tolerate those who present a threat to the health and welfare of animals in England and, of course, across our United Kingdom. We are proud of our world-leading standards and we continually strive to improve and maintain our position as world leaders in animal welfare. We already have effective and detailed and powerful laws to maintain the health and welfare of our animals, the quality of our animal products, and the biosecurity of our nation. However, Madam Deputy Speaker, I believe we lack a system of penalties to redirect behaviour when those with animals in their care are not doing things quite right. We are lacking an option which can sit in between warning letters and criminal prosecution. And so I believe that penalty notices can be the next step in establishing the UK as a world leader in animal health and welfare. For the most severe crimes, criminal prosecution will always be the most appropriate course of action. We all see the immense value that the Animals Sentencing Act, which the Honourable Member for West Dorset so finely championed, has brought by introducing longer prison sentences for heinous animal welfare crimes. I know that every member in the House will acknowledge that there is a difference between mistakenly logging a farm animal's movements incorrectly and cruelly, intentionally abusing an animal. Some offences can occur without the presence of ill will, or can occur due to a genuine mistake. For example, transgressions relating to the recording of livestock movements. We have a fantastic farming community in this country that work extremely hard round the clock to properly look after their animals. And they understand the importance of knowing where livestock are now and where they've come from. In 2019, there were 45,000 cattle keepers and 61,000 sheep farmers in England. And it is critical that the movements are recorded in line with our laws to protect public health on animal welfare and the national herds and flocks. The risk here is that if livestock movements are not recorded accurately, this limits our ability to control and address animal disease. Most farmers record their livestock's movements accurately, and they respond well to advice and guidance from our enforcement authorities. However, unfortunately though, some farmers continually to fail to record accurately, which causes serious risk. This is where I would like to see penalty notices applied in a fair, transparent and proportionate way to positively change behaviours. This would help us to ultimately protect public health, animal welfare and the national herds and flocks. Yet, as I mentioned, the enforcement tools available in dealing with such matters are either quite gentle or quite severe. On the quite gentle end of the spectrum, we have advice and guidance. Then, of course, for the most severe offences, we have the option of pursuing imprisonment with unlimited fines. Until now, the cross-compliance scheme has been one of the major means of ensuring animal health and welfare standards have been met by eligible animal keepers. But as I'm sure many colleagues will already be aware, cross-compliance and the way it applies subsidy deductions is widely viewed as disproportionate and unfair, particularly by our farming communities. As a system of penalty notices which are financial penalties of up to £5,000 will be fairer and more effective than the EU's disproportionate and convoluted cross-compliance, and it will extend beyond farm animals into companion animals, zoo animals and animal products. These give individuals an opportunity to pay a penalty for any type of transgression, similar to a speeding ticket, as an alternative to a potential court case. In the most severe cases, we can all agree that this will never be appropriate for those who abuse animals in the worst ways. So this is not watering down our ability to punish those who abuse animals, it's simply providing something in between to deal with less serious transgressions. So it will always be appropriate to take criminal prosecution against those who cause and create the worst crimes against animals. Where there is an opportunity, however, for us to improve our ability to protect animals from mistreatment by supporting an individual to understand their responsibilities, we will be able to look to apply a penalty. Madam Deputy Speaker, my bill establishes powers that will enable us to determine which offences are appropriate through secondary legislation. The bill itself states for which acts penalty notices could be applicable, which includes, to name but a few, offences under the Animal Welfare Act, the Animal Health Act, relevant sections of the European Withdrawal Act and the Dangerous Dogs Act. I am delighted that by introducing this bill, we are extending much further than cross-compliance was able to achieve, and in a fairer and more transparent way. This will be an animal welfare gain. With this bill, we will continue to build our enforcement capabilities, which will further demonstrate our standards in England as world-leading. This is a simple measure with a big impact to make sure that we are responding proportionately to each transgression. This could include scenarios where pet breeders fail to include their licence numbers on online adverts for puppies and kittens. Businesses that breed animals must have a valid licence. Accidentally missing the licence number from an advert or forgetting to microchip the animals before rehoming them can seem inconsequential. But, Mr Deputy Speaker, proper registration is critical in ensuring that people can buy pets with confidence from a legitimate source with the high health and welfare standards they rightly expect. Here, a financial penalty would be proportionate response to highlight that these actions are not inconsequential and would have a real impact on the people who rehome the animals. Now, Mr Deputy Speaker, if you will allow me, can I turn to the UK zoo sector? The UK zoo sector has some of the highest welfare standards in the world, as well as being amongst the world leaders in conservation work. I would particularly like to thank the British and Irish Association of Zoos and Aquariums for their magnificent work they do all year round in promoting the values of good zoos and aquariums, and the support they offer to me as chairman of the all-party group for zoos and aquariums. They do magnificent work, and I thank them on all of our behalfs. However, there are a small, sadly, number of zoos that do not always live up to our high expectations. And when local authorities find an issue, they can put a condition in place. If this condition is not met, a direction may be applied. In many cases, zoo will respond well to the initial condition set, and they will improve their behaviour. For those who do not, the local authority may decide to issue a penalty notice, particularly if the condition does not directly link to the care of the animals. I would welcome the addition of penalty notices in this area to provide an additional enforcement tool alongside issuing direction, to highlight the importance of acting in line with a set condition. The bill before us today is a simple one, consisting of 9 clauses. The bill initially lays out the powers that enforcement authorities will have to issue penalties under the relevant Act as listed in the bill. It states that the police will be responsible for applying penalty notices for offences relating to dangerous dogs committed in England and Wales. It explains that penalty notices give a person the opportunity to discharge their liability for the offence, and states that the enforcement authorities will have 6 months to take the case to court if the penalty is not paid after 28 days. It also confirms the maximum penalty of £5,000 or £2,500 if the penalty is paid within 14 days. The bill also conditions multiple safeguards to make sure penalties are applied fairly. These include specified factors that enforcement authorities must take into account when considering if a penalty is appropriate, to ensure we take a tailored yet consistent approach. There will be official guidance laid before Parliament which enforcement authorities will need to consider before issuing a penalty. It will be important for the Government to work closely with those that keep animals to ensure this guidance effectively sets out how penalty notices should be applied. Mr. Deputy Speaker, this bill sets out the enabling powers to introduce offences through statutory instruments. The majority of the bill will come into force 2 months after royal assent, with the rest coming into force when relevant secondary legislation is in place. And I want to give particular thanks to the organisations from the farming community that have engaged with me on this bill, such as the National Farmers Union, the Livestock Auctioneers Association, the National Pig Association, and the Country Landowners Association. I understand the difficulties that they faced in dealing with the interaction between animal welfare and the Common Agricultural Policy. I am glad that now that we have left the constraints of the European Union, the farming community have shown their support for the fair and proportional penalty notices system that I'm presenting in my bill today. We are very fortunate to have so many organisations dedicated to carrying out important work for animals in this country, such as the Dogs Trust, Battersea Dogs and Cats Home, the RSPCA, the Kennel Club and many others, that do so much for the welfare of pets across our country. When, as I hope, the Animal Penalty Notices Bill is enacted, we have secured a much-needed framework for a proportionate financial penalty system. Our government, I believe, has responded to the people's will and led the country out of the clutches of the European Union, and this has given us an opportunity that we must not waste to improve our standards in so many areas, with animal welfare at the very top of our agenda. Today, Mr. Deputy Speaker, we are continuing to elevate our world-leading reputation for animal health and welfare. This bill marks an important step in the establishment of new enforcement in England to ensure we have an appropriate response to transgressions, so we can prevent individuals from ever reaching a stage where severe punishment is required. Today marks the start of that journey of penalty notices to further protect the animals with whom we are so privileged to have within our care. And I thank all members across the House for giving it their support today. I beg to move.